It's Something to Author with your host, Anne-Marie Author. Her guests are Chachi Huesca, a volunteer coordinator for events, Bill Heller, music producer and vice president of Cachet Entertainment, and Jennifer Loomis, personal trainer, fitness instructor, and founder of the Body Workshop.
Hello and welcome to Something to Offer. Do you have a dream you've been thinking about, working toward, or just put on the back burner? This show focuses on people who are creating their own dreams and developing their own personal success. I'm very pleased to have with me Chachi, Bill, and Jennifer, and they'll share with us what it takes to really challenge your dreams. My first guest is a volunteer events coordinator, a very bubbly and energetic person, Chachi Huesca. Thank you for being here, Chachi.
Thank you for having me, Anne-Marie, and it's a volunteer coordinator for events.
For events. I did it right in rehearsal.
Very, very good in rehearsal.
Anyway, the first question I wanted to ask you was, what is an events coordinator, so everyone will know what that job is?
Basically, what happens is that an event comes up, usually a major concert or a TV show, and besides all of the personnel that they need to make that happen, they actually need people who are volunteers, people who will help them, and sometimes they get a teeny bit of pay, but mostly they don't get paid. But they take care of important things like escorting the talent, picking them up from airports, making sure they get on stage and off stage on time, and running errands for them. Sometimes it means manning doors that the audience doesn't come through. And volunteers do crazy things like go buy towels for Whitney Houston, you know. So they're very important. They're very important to an event. Sometimes they've filled seats at a concert that, you know, or a TV program that's being, you know, shown in concert, and they can't have any empty seats. And they need volunteers, so you get all dressed up and you get to go to see the show free. So it's a great many things that volunteers do, and I coordinate their participation in the event.
So my question to you is, in terms of getting involved in this type of career or goal, where did this come from? Were you a Girl Scout, or did you do family reunions, or did it come from anywhere in the past at all?
It's funny because I was a Girl Scout, but I didn't think about coordinating volunteers. I think what happened was I participated in some events, some that I produced myself, began to see a real need. And as people helped me out themselves with some of the things that I was doing, I kept their telephone numbers. And then when other people called me and asked me, you know, could you help me with this particular event, I would have a base to call people from. And I sort of just grew into doing this. So it wasn't really so much, maybe a helpful attitude. You know, I've always helped. I've always wanted to help someone make something happen. The production was always foremost.
So another question I have for you in terms of that and helping people is, you mentioned a few when you were talking before. What type of events? What is the diversity of the type of events that you coordinate?
Well, you can do anything from a benefit concert, a TV program. We had, during Essence Week, we had special sponsor events, and so I would have to have volunteers help serve food, you know, at a seminar or an art show, be hosts and hostesses for the art show. So it's all different kinds of things.
Mm-hmm. How do you develop clientele and your reputation in this field, or how did you?
All by word of mouth. One producer talks to another producer, or one producer is doing one event, and then the next time he does an event, he calls upon you. I worked with some folks from Los Angeles on the Essence Awards in New York. Mm-hmm. So, of course, they're like, oh, you did such a great job, we're going to call you to please help us with the MTV Awards. And so, you know, hopefully I'll be in LA in July. So it's word of mouth. Mostly you know, you're working, you do the thing, and the people around you remember you when they're doing something.
I want to ask you one more question. What has been the most challenging event that you've coordinated to this
The most
point?
challenging event definitely has been the Essence Image Awards, which is hosted by Essence Magazine here in New York. This time we had, it was the first time in the 5 years of the event that it was televised, and we were responsible for a 5,600 person venue, which was Madison Square Garden, and we had to host 22 artists who were on the bill, including Oprah Winfrey and Bill Cosby and Denzel Washington, and those volunteers that were responsible for those folks were in seventh heaven, and they were never disappointed because all of those folks were so gracious to their volunteer escorts. But we had quite a big job there.
Well, that sounds great. We're going to talk some more later, but I'm going to move on if that's okay.
Thank you. It's wonderful. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. My next guest is very charming and determined music producer, Bill Heller. He is also the vice president of Cache Records. Hi, Bill. Thanks for being here.
Well, thanks for having me here.
I got your thing right, I hope.
Oh, very right, yes.
Anyway, you started off, or I actually want to ask, I know what you started off doing, but I'll let you tell them. How did you finally get into producing? I know you've done several other things before.
Well, I mainly started off, I'm a bass player, and I was a bass player with a number, I mean, I used to have my hair down to here, and with everything from heavy metal bands to soul reviews when I was starting out, and I wanted to get a record deal. I kept playing with bands, trying to get signed, doing showcases. It wasn't happening. So I finally got the idea that if I produced my own tape, then maybe I could get that a deal. And so I started producing that. I talked my way into what was a major recording studio for quite a number of years now, Minot Sound, by going up there and playing. I was playing with a group that was on a small label, Musicore Records, that had the hit Popcorn, you know, boop, 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 boop. Right,
Yeah.
okay. And I was playing with one of their acts, but I didn't do the album. But the album was just done, it wasn't released. I went up to Minot, I played them the tape. I said it was me on the tape, but it was really a great bass player named Russ George.
Sometimes you have to
Whatever gets you over.
And ended up becoming great friends with the owner of the studio, and we formed a production company, and that's pretty much how I got started.
Now, you formed a production company then, but I wanted to ask also, how did you make the Cache company happen? It's not the same producer, is it?
No, well, there's one party that's common to both. The president of Cache is a guy named Jack Levy, who used to have a label called Reflection Records back at the height of disco through 79 through 82. And I produced a lot of records for him back then, and several of them were hits. And then the label eventually, like many small labels do, went under. But he's resurfaced to form Cache recently, and he asked me if I wanted to be a part of the company and be the A&R person for the company, and I did it, and I love it, and it's great.
Good.
So,
what kind of groups or talent are you focusing on with Cache?
right now, with I guess what's called mostly urban contemporary, which are rappers and techno music, and as well as a lot of music out of Jamaica. We're signing a number of island artists, and our first releases, this is a new company, are scheduled for June 15th. And we're just very excited about this.
15th.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
So then when a release comes, how long does it take till you really know if it's hit? I mean, I don't know anything about this kind of thing.
We don't know anything about it either. No, you never know. You can get an immediate reaction on something, especially if you're putting out an album. The first single can just catch, or you can take 3 or 4 singles off the record, and it's the 4th one that catches for you.
Are the island people doing reggae also, or are they just doing rap for you?
No, strictly reggae.
Oh, they're doing reggae.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Your label fosters lots of new talent and helps people get on with their dreams, and that's what we're all doing here anyway. I wanted to ask you, what do you get from that? It's like you're sort of like a mentor, and you're many things to those young talents. And what does that do for you?
It makes me feel fatherly. I don't know. It's hard. With many new artists, they're unsure of themselves. They're getting their feet wet, and you have to really help them feel good about themselves, about their own music, and keep them motivated, keep them excited. Because there are so many just rough things that happen to you along the way, and so many hurdles to get over. And just keeping them pumped up is
that why you cut your hair?
I cut my hair because the donut on top, as they would call it.
Oh, no.
I do want to ask you before we all go off into another world.
Yes.
What can we look forward to having come out like around the 15th? What kind of work can we see? Specific groups or anybody you want to focus on telling us about?
Well, our first releases are a reggae album by an artist named Swell LA, who's just a sweet, romantic-voiced reggae singer. A rap artist by the name of The Pope, who's...
I know The Pope.
You know The Pope well.
He was on the show. He was the Pope then.
He was a much nicer guy way back when.
Sweet then.
Yes.
No,
What's the matter? He didn't like Italy?
No, he's still a sweet guy, still a large guy, you know. But
I actually rapped with him.
But we worked with him a lot, and he has much more of a message to convey now, I think, and it's changed his name to make it more appropriate to that.
So we'll see some of his stuff coming out.
Yeah, him, as well as a rap group called the Tudes.
The dudes.
Yes, featuring a rapper by the name of Jack Rude, who's an underground New York poet, and
Rude dudes.
yeah, and the rest of the band, Ada, Nega, and Paza, which is true. Yeah.
Oh, all kinds of tudes. Anyway, we're going to move on before I get any
Okay.
toot, and we'll talk a little more later. My next guest is a very wonderful, challenging, I'm moving over to this camera now, fitness instructor and personal trainer, and she's also the founder of the Body Workshop, and her name is Jennifer Loomis. Thank you for being here, Jennifer.
It's great to be here.
Now I'm going to
Thank
call
you.
her Jenny because
That's what-
I'm going to forget, and that's how I know you. I want to ask you, I mean, I know Billy was a bass player before. You were actually a
dance,
dancer,
yeah.
and I wanted to know how the fitness evolved for you,
From-
how this
from
career
dance.
evolved for you.
Well, it's really interesting. I'm so happy now that I'm actually doing something that I can make money doing something that I love. You know, it's just incredible. So when I danced, that was never a factor. I kind of knew that I would never make that much money as a dancer. So I guess that was always an element of wondering, you know, will I make money? Can I survive? Do my parents approve? You know, a lot of different things. You know, the hurdles that you were talking about before, you know, were really there. And the wonderful thing now is that I really feel like I am dancing. You know, when I lead a class, when I choreograph, like I might spend hours with tapes and music at night, you know, working out exactly the right kind of music, the right beats per minute, the style, changing the styles, putting on, you know, jazz and then putting on rap and, you know, changing things so people are interested. And so I feel very, very creative, and I definitely still feel like I'm a choreographer and a dancer too. So you know, it's really a wonderful field
And
for
you
me.
get to make money.
I get to make money,
How does one?
so I can keep going.
I'm sorry. How does
Yeah.
one become, or what is the training process? I mean, like, you know, firstly, I mean, what do you have to do to
Become a trainer? Well, actually, all the years of dance training, you know, really come in handy. And I find that, you know, many of the other trainers that I meet, I actually belong to an association of personal trainers in New York City, and most of those people were dancers. And as a dancer, you really, you know, develop, you know, very good knowledge of the body, and that translates, definitely translates. And then I also used to teach a technique of exercise called Nikolaus technique, and I taught that for several years, and that was really, you know, gave me a good background. And then recently this year, I began to take many workshops, and I got certified by ACE, American Council on Exercise, and you know, it's a really, really developing field right now. You can keep educating yourself constantly, forever and ever, and that's really wonderful. So, you know, there's exercise physiology, there's the science of exercise, the science of movement, nutrition. It's a really, really big field, you know, the exercise
And it's
field.
very needed all the
Very,
time.
very needed,
Yeah,
yeah.
because there's so many people that are unfit. I mean, you don't have to look perfect to be fit. You
No.
just, a lot of people don't have any sense of exercise.
But yeah, also I think, you know, alignment is a really crucial factor, and you know, many, many people have poor alignment, and that's why they have back problems, and that's why, you know, they have headaches, and you know, they also don't know how to breathe. There are a lot of things that, you know, it's funny that we have to be trained how to breathe, but you know, that's something a trainer does.
That's why it's great to have one if you have the money. I
Or you
wanted,
can go to classes too.
right. I wanted to ask, when you mentioned classes, how does it vary for you? What are the comparisons or contrasts to teaching a group or teaching someone and training them privately? In which, you know, maybe do you
Right.
prefer, or the challenges of that?
Well, I think that the choreography factor is different for a class. In a class, you want to have, for the most part, a really choreographed routine. So there's a lot of preparation toward that. You can't take a whole class and say, well, what do you guys want to do now? I mean, you can do that if you have a very good rapport with them and you've been working with them for a while, but generally they don't, you know, you don't have that kind of flexibility. So there's a more of a very, you know, set routine for a class. Also, you can't give as many corrections. When I train people one-on-one, I'm on top of them the whole time. You check your back, check your stomach, pull it in, drop your shoulders, all this kind of thing. It's a very different experience, and you feel a little bit like a therapist, so that when you finish, it's almost like, it's a very, very intense feeling, whereas a class will give you back a lot of feedback and a lot of energy, so you feel a little different when you finish teaching a class.
Okay, so now you're going to give me an
A class.
intense feeling. So I'm going to get my one free personal training right
Okay.
now. And I think we're going to listen to Swalale while we work this out.
Okay.
But I can't, okay.
Here, I can.
All right, Anne-Marie, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
I'm going to nag you. Personal trainer is a combination of a mother and a nag and whatever. So let's start working a little bit with your alignment.
Okay.
See, it's kind of hard to see, but...
Oh, I'm sorry, I can't do that.
Well, what we want to do is make sure that your hips are basically right over your
Okay.
feet. Why don't you rock back and forth a little bit?
Okay.
Think of lifting slightly through your arches. It's a tiny move, just to
Okay.
kind of get your
Tiny
weight
move.
centered.
Okay.
Good. Now, why don't you take a breath in, get your legs a little wider apart, and just reach up. Feels good, right?
Yeah.
Now stretch. Pull your stomach in, tuck under slightly, open your arms. This is a really abbreviated version. Keep your knees easy,
Okay.
and just take your shoulders back. All right, around.
Oh, that looks good.
Yeah. You guys can join us.
Oh, no, no thanks.
Okay, and take the back the other way. So as a trainer, you keep going.
Okay.
What I would be doing is stopping and watching you and say, okay, let's lift a little through here. Drop your tailbone down. Relax with your shoulders, okay? And what you really want to do is develop a lot of strength in your abdomen, so that when you're moving, you're never putting your back out of alignment. So let's try a move like this. This is an isolation of your upper body. Take your arms like this. I know it looks weird. It's lazy Susan. And just think of the top part of your body as a lazy Susan. And this is one of the things you learn with a trainer or a teacher, is how to isolate different parts of your body. Because believe it or not, most of us feel like we're all one piece. And we don't know, you're saying, lift your pelvis, where's my pelvis? So,
How do I lift it?
yeah, you teach people where their pelvis is.
Yeah, I often have that problem.
Things like that. You have a problem. So, anyway, but people do have certain blocks. Like you may know where your pelvis is, but you may not know where your shoulders are.
Yeah.
And a lot of people do not know where their shoulders are. The shoulders it's a real big area, because most of us take our tension in our shoulders. So that's, see, and Anne-Marie's pretty good. She's keeping her shoulders down and her shoulders on the top of her body. Let's try lifting, reaching up.
I always find it so difficult to do, watch TV and do this, because I feel like I'm moving all wrong. So a class is a little bit better.
Yeah,
But if you're in a big
better.
class, it's not, because they don't always
Try
try
twisting.
Yeah, that's
Keep that
true.
feeling of being a lazy Susan on top. Twist. Do you feel that? So you get more. See, this is the little subtle things a teacher will give you. Like, you can really get so much more if you're lifting up and twisting.
Are you guys really that expensive?
Oh, not that expensive. I mean, it depends on your income level. But for instance, a class, and I do a lot of classes, it's a lot less expensive. And reach it out.
What do you do, Jenny, to keep people, I mean, class
Now we're just warming you up.
but what do you do to keep people motivated, keep yourself up? I mean, you teach,
I try bringing your legs forward.
You
See, I
teach-
told you.
you teach 4 or 5 times a day sometimes, how to keep yourself up and
Oh,
keep your
well,
mood up.
that's a whole other issue. I have never been, take yours a little bit out. This is what you do when you teach. You're constantly balancing these different things. I've never been challenged quite as much in that way. Even as a dancer, regularly say that. My main challenge was to take care of myself. But now I spend all day taking care of other people. It's a very, very different experience. So I'm still working on that challenge. But because I love it, it makes it all worthwhile. So what we would do, and again, this is very abbreviated, we're kind of working toward aerobics. We're still warming up. We didn't do a complete warm-up. Actually, yeah, just what we should have done. And we should have actually done a nice long roll down the back first before we did anything. So, Anne-Marie, stay down here. Take out your head a little bit. And slowly roll up. Okay. When you roll up, keep your shoulders down. Scoop your stomach in. Drop your tailbone. Okay? Keep going. So, see the chin, top of the head. Another thing I've learned is I used to not like to tell people what to do. And I've learned how to be very kind of, aggressive and bossy. And it's, I didn't think it was my nature, but I guess everyone has a side like that they can use
And
for
you
something
get
good.
paid.
Good.
Well, I gotta be aggressive and bossy, so thank you. Let's sit down.
You're in great shape, Anne-Marie. You didn't need any help.
I work out every day. No, almost every day.
All right.
Every day, except when they close the gym.
I work out every year.
Okay, now we're at the part, although we sort of started already, my favorite part of the show. This is a group segment, so I will ask questions
A
of...
microphone.
Oh, Jenny, did
That's
it fall
all right.
off?
I'll put it on.
You got it? Wait, okay. Put it right there. Anyway, you can ask me questions, each other questions, whatever, but I'm going to ask the first question, if that's okay. I wanted to ask everyone, how do they feel their work serves society, particular jobs they're doing? Anyone can answer, you all don't have to answer, whatever you feel like.
I think that for me, in terms of society, some of these events are really important. I think, I hate to keep going back to Essence, but it was the last thing that I did. But letting people see other people's accomplishments inspires them, and those events need to happen. Certainly, the musical concerts, those are important. Those need to happen. They help people feel better. It helps make people happy. And so, if you're a volunteer and you get to be right up close, it certainly gives you a nice sense and feeling of yourself. But in society in general, I think these events are really important. They need to see this stuff happening.
Have life touch life.
Yeah.
Well, I think in fitness, it's very, very rewarding to see how different individuals respond to exercise, and it's really amazing. I have one man who's 93 years old.
Wow.
He was my first client. He trained me in a sense, and he's a wonderful man. And anyway, he's 93, he's in a wheelchair.
Wow.
And we work out with weights. I taught him a lot about breathing that he didn't know. And the amazing thing is that every time I come and I work with him, he gets so excited because I tell him one more new thing. And that's like...
At 93
very,
years
very
old, wow.
rewarding. 93 years old, he's still learning, wants to learn all the time. I have other people with arthritis and osteoporosis. I work with a lot of elderly people. So I think that, it's on a one-on-one kind of basis. You can really see... and I teach a class out in Brooklyn, too, at the Long Island College Hospital. And the women there have not been exercising, and they've been coming to me lately and saying, "Oh, I have a waist now," and it is really exciting because I know from my own experience when I exercise, I feel so much better. I really, really feel different about myself, and it's not just, like having a nice defined bicep or something like that. It's really the way you feel. But actually, that's a lot of it too. We serve society by making people look better.
That helps.
It's better for everybody.
Yeah, it really is.
I think probably you give them a sense of themselves and
That's
pride.
true.
I mean, I know I taught for a while in an exercise aerobics class to senior citizens, and same kind of thing. They said, when I came, I couldn't bend over, and now I can bend over. I never knew when I was doing it that was what was going to come out of it, but I just tried to have them have a good time and do something that they could do, and it makes them have pride, I think, which is great. And
Yeah,
you-
that and well, for what I do, one of the seeing young rappers and get their message out, and we tend to only get involved with rap artists and music artists in general that have some sort of a positive message. I mean, whether there's cursing, whether there's whatever, if the overall message to society is positive, I think it's important that these messages do get out. This is what kids listen to. This is what they live by. And there's enough negative influences in the world. And also just by the fact that I think if I keep myself working, I create work for other people in music, which is we all need work. We all need to try to get ahead.
That's right.
So that's a benefit too.
I love the music, even though I don't really listen to rap per se, being a mother of a child who listens to rap, I really appreciate when I hear really good rap, and I can now differentiate what's good and what's not so good, what's commercial and what's underground.
Right.
And it's so interesting because I feel like I'm learning something and I'm staying a little bit in touch, and so that means that I create a little bit of a connection with younger people, and maybe that'll keep me younger.
How do you, all of you, stay on track going after your dream or goal? How do you keep yourself on track?
It's hard sometimes, it really is, but I pump myself up. I mean, I'm good. I was talked earlier about, you know, if we work with young artists, keeping them motivated. I have to give myself the same speech very often, and that really helps. You know, I'm a good producer for myself.
That's good. Not everybody is, you know. Sometimes we need it. Anybody else on that question?
Well, I think, you know, it took me so long to find what I really wanted, or the way I could really express my life in society to help other people. And I guess now, even if I'm discouraged, even if I'm tired, I feel like the dream is really, like, very, very deep in my life. So somehow I can't give up, and that makes me feel that I'm really on the right track. But from day to day, I think it's good to have a schedule, you know, and to make targets and say, I'm going to do this no matter what. And then you can't avoid it because you already made that target. Like, you know, I'm going to be here at a certain time. I'm going to be there, and make that target. And even if you don't feel capable every single minute, or you know that you really have the potential, as long as you make the determination, I will do it. Then somehow your life catches up with you.
And you know, just for this morning, I was like, it was so difficult to get here. I says, I need to do this for me. I want to do this. And you know, and I said I was going to do this, you know, and a month ago, and I'm going to do it. And so you're right, you know, just setting even that small target of saying, I said I was going to do it, and being, you know how you would, if you told someone, gave someone your word, you do it, making sure that you keep your word to yourself.
It's interesting. That's one of the aspects of personal training that I wanted to bring up, is the concept of an appointment.
Yeah.
You make an appointment with a person. That's the whole thing. If you talk to a person, if you know you're going to meet a person somewhere, somehow you respond to that much better than, you know, some kind of vague dream in your mind, you know.
Well, this has really been so great. I've had such a good time.
Me too. I wish we could keep going.
I want to do some exercises now.
The camera's going.
But I want to thank each of you for being here and sharing your dream with us. And I want to thank everybody who's been viewing and watching also. And if you have anything to let us know or share dreams, please let us know. And until next time, be well. Thank you.
This is Kevin Bain, and from all of us at Something to Offer to all of you, dare to dream and go for it.